Okay, so this is the overall picture of this theory of reasoned action. We can see that this theory predicts that intention is a very strong predictor of people's actual behavior in the reality. And there are two factors co-deciding people's behavior intention. The first one is attitude. The second one, we call it subjective norms. And for this attitude, we talk about attitude. We may want to specify two things, two components of attitude. The first one is the valence of your attitude. Do you hold a positive or negative or neutral attitude towards the issue, towards the matter? And how strong, how firm your attitude is. And the second factor we have discussed is subjective norms. And speaking of these subjective norms, we also want to specify two things. The first one is, in your opinion, how would your reference group, your families, your friends, how would your reference group expect you to behave in a certain situation, in a given situation? Okay. And second one, we do not only concern about the expectations from our reference group. We also want to think about whether or not you are motivated to comply with your reference group. Let's say your parents have been asking you for a long time to, not drink with your friends. So we can see that your parents have a very negative attitude towards your drinking behavior. But your motivation to comply with them is pretty low. It's not very high. Probably you don't quite value their opinion. Probably you care more about your friends, their expectations. They expect you to go party with them, to go drink with them during the weekend. So my point here is the expectations from families, from your friends, or the normative, subjective beliefs from your reference group is one thing. But whether or not you want to comply with them or you are motivated to comply with them might be another thing. Okay, so let's say if your parents have an expectation towards you for a certain healthy behavior, and you are also motivated to comply with them, and this would predict a very desired subjective norm, and combined with a very good attitude from yourself, we're gonna predict a very good behavior intention, which may further lead to a real action in the reality. Okay, so this is kind of the overall picture of this model, and I hope it's pretty clear to you guys. Next, I'm gonna move forward to another theory, and this theory is called theory of planned behavior. And this theory of planned behavior is built upon this theory of reasoned action by adding one factor, which predicts people's behavior intention and also the actual behavior. Let's take a look at this theory of planned action. So to talk about this theory of theory of planned action, I'm gonna go back to the condom use promotion campaign or intervention in India. So let's go back to this example. So after researchers successfully switched people's attitude towards condom use to positive side, and the researchers found that the next barrier for people's condom use is they do not practice this safe sex. They don't use a condom in a consistent way. So for researchers, the next barrier which needs to be addressed is inconsistent use of condom. So after people held a very positive attitude towards condom use, well, they still cannot implement a very good behavior. So sometimes they use a condom, they behave, but sometimes they still don't use a condom. And the researchers, they kind of talked with a few participants, a few Indian people, and asked them, why didn't you use condom in a consistent way? And they got two kind of reasons preventing people not use the condom. The first one is that Indian people, they would make judgment about who is safe and who is not safe. So their behavior is totally based on their subjective judgment. If they perceive their sex partner is safe, they're not gonna use a condom. They only use a condom when they perceive the partner is not safe, may have some kind of disease. A second reason is that some young people, they prioritize pleasure or urgency over safety. So sometimes they're in such a great hurry and they don't want to bother to buy a condom or use a condom. So after learning these facts, the researchers kind of make a decision, decide, okay, we have addressed people's attitude and the subjective norm is pretty good. And next thing we may want to address in our intervention is we want other people to take control of their own behaviors. They may want to learn how to control their behavior and make a wise decision. So the next target behavior they want to address in their intervention is they want to people exert control over their behaviors, and they're gonna equal or make associations between condom use with control. And they also created a video advertisement to deliver this point or deliver this idea. So let's take a look of this video, and then we're gonna get back to this theory of plunge behavior. So please, I think this is the third video in this module. Please click the third video and watch this 1 or 2 minutes video, and then we're gonna be back to our slides. Okay, welcome back to our slides. I hope you guys enjoyed this funny video. So we can see that this campaign used a very humorous tone to tell a story that even though this young man, he is in such a big hurry, but he still can kind of remain, calm and make a correct and wise decision to use a condom. So apparently this video was trying to make associations between condom use with control and try to deliver the idea that if you can take control of your behavior, you are a real man. You are a decent and calm man. And this brings me to a different factor here. It's called perceived behavior control. And this behavior is deciding people's behavior intention and also the behavior. In reality, we have lots of situations where we have a very desired attitude and we have a very good subjective norms, but we still cannot adopt a very or keep a very healthy behavior. It is because people have relatively low control over their behaviors. Let me give you one example. My dad, he right now he's in his early 60s, and he is a very heavy smoker. I think he has been smoking for 40, at least 30 years. And he clearly knows that smoking is very, very bad for his lungs, for his health. So we can see that he got a very desired attitude towards this issue, towards this behavior of smoking. And of course, me and my mom, we cannot stress more about the, how bad smoking is. And clearly, my family has a very positive environment. If my father, he decides to quit smoking. So we can see that both of these two factors are ready. My father, he clearly knows that smoking is very bad, very good a desired attitude towards smoking, and he clearly knows both me and my mom, we want him to quit smoking. So this subjective norm is also ready, but he is still kind of, smoking right now. He didn't quit smoking. So what's the problem here? The problem is his perceived behavior control is pretty low. Okay, he can barely control or exert some control over his smoking behavior. So whenever you think about some factors deciding people's behavior intention or the actual behavior, their attitude and this subjective norm is not enough. You got to consider people's their actual control over their behaviors, and only if people have a relatively high control over their behavior, then we can successfully implement a desired behavior. Okay, so this is a theory of planned behavior, and this theory is purely built upon the theory of reasoned action by adding one factor, and this factor is perceived behavior control. Very simple. That is, people, in your opinion, how well do you think or do you believe you can control your own behavior? Okay. So that's pretty much about today's lecture. We talked about the theory of reasoned action. Mainly, we focus on these two factors. And I give you guys some real applications in health domain, health communication domain. And then we talk about this theory of planned behavior. I also give you guys a real application here. So I guess that's all I have for today's class. And in Wednesday's class, I'm going to talk about the cognitive dissonance theory. And we're going to talk about what happens if people hold inconsistent attitude and behaviors. What kind of things could happen? So that's all for today's class. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you guys in Wednesday's class.